Welcome to the Great White North, a land once synonymous with opportunity, safety, and a thriving middle class. But look closer at the numbers, and you'll find a shadow fact that the mainstream media rarely discusses. For the first time in history, the average Canadian family spends more on taxes than they do on food, shelter, and clothing combined. Let that sink in. You aren't just working for your mortgage or your groceries. You are working for a system that takes the lion's share before you even see your direct deposit. This is the visceral feeling of never getting ahead. You clock in, you deal with the commute, you sacrifice your time, and yet at the end of the month, the balance in your checking account is lower than it was last year. We are told the economy is resilient, but your bank statement tells a different story. Why does it feel like we are running on a treadmill that keeps getting faster while the floor is being greased? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the silent forces eroding your purchasing power. We aren't just talking about inflation. We're talking about a fundamental shift in the Canadian identity. By the end of this video, you'll understand the math they don't want you to calculate and why the next 12 months might be the most challenging yet.
Walk into any Loblaws, Sobeys, or Metro today, and you'll feel it, that pit in your stomach when the total appears on the screen. It's not just your imagination. The Loblaws effect is real. While you're staring at a $9 head of lettuce or a $30 pack of chicken breasts, corporate profits in the grocery sector have hit record highs. The Canadian grocery landscape is an oligopoly, a fancy word meaning a few giants control everything you eat. They tell us it's supply chain issues. They tell us it's global unrest. But when the dividends keep rising while your fridge stays empty, the math doesn't add up. You find yourself standing in the aisle, comparing price per gram like a forensic accountant, trying to decide if you can afford the brand name butter or if you have to settle for the oil-based substitute. This is the emotional pain of the grocery run. A task that used to be mundane has now become a source of high-stakes stress. We've moved from thriving to surviving, and the shadow fact here is that grocery prices often rise at double the rate of official inflation. But food is just the tip of the iceberg. What happens when the very roof over your head becomes a debt trap you can never escape?
The Canadian housing market has become a monster that eats its own children. In the GTA or the GVA, a basic bungalow, the kind your parents buy on a single factory salary, now costs upwards of $1.2 million. To afford that, you need a household income that puts you in the top 5% of earners, yet the house itself is often falling apart. We are living through the GTA rent trap, where 50% or even 60% of a young professional's take-home pay goes directly to a landlord who is likely just using it to cover their own soaring mortgage. It's a cycle of wealth transfer from the young and productive to the old and landed. The Bank of Canada's interest rate hikes were supposed to cool this fever, but instead, they've created a mortgage cliff. Thousands of Canadians are facing renewals that will see their monthly payments jump by $1,000 or $2,000. Where does that money come from? It comes from your retirement savings, your kids' education fund, and your sanity. The dream of home ownership has been replaced by the nightmare of perpetual debt. But here is the open loop. If housing is a safe investment, why are the smartest financial minds in the country starting to liquidate their holdings? What did they know about the next 24 months that you don't?
Then there is the silent bite of the CRA. In Canada, we pride ourselves on our social safety net, but the cost of that net is becoming a noose for the middle class. Bracket creep is the invisible thief. As inflation pushes wages up slightly, you find yourself pushed into a higher tax bracket, even though your actual purchasing power has decreased. You're earning more dollars, but you're buying fewer goods, and the government is taking a bigger percentage of those devalued dollars. When you factor in federal tax, provincial tax, CPP, EI, and then the carbon tax on top, the CRA tax bite is staggering. Many Canadians don't realize that by the time they pay for their gas, taxed, their electricity, taxed, and their basic necessities, taxed, they are effectively living on 40 cents of every dollar they actually earn. It's a grind that feels impossible to win. You work overtime to get ahead, but the extra income is taxed at your highest marginal rate, leaving you with pennies for your extra hours. This creates a psychological ceiling, a feeling that there is no point in trying harder because the system is designed to keep you exactly where you are.
But wait until you see how the hidden fees of Canadian life are actually the biggest drain of all. The Bank of Canada is playing a dangerous game of chicken with your lifestyle. For years, we were addicted to cheap credit. We were told rates would stay low for a long time. So Canadians did what they were told. They took on massive debt, bought the trucks, bought the houses, and lived the life. But the interest rate roller coaster has taken a violent turn. Every time Tiff Macklem speaks, billions of dollars in household wealth evaporate. The shadow fact here is that Canada has the highest household debt to GDP ratio in the G7. We are a nation built on a foundation of IOUs. When the BOC raises rates to fight inflation, they are essentially trying to break your back so you'll stop spending. They want you to feel the pain. They want you to stop going to restaurants and stop buying clothes so that prices stabilize. It is a blunt instrument that hits the poorest and the middle class the hardest, while those with massive capital simply earn more on their savings. You are the collateral damage in a war against a ghost. And as these rates stay higher for longer, the structural integrity of the Canadian family unit is being tested like never before. How much more can you bend before you finally break? The middle-class mirage is the realization that a $100,000 salary in 2024 feels like a $50,000 salary in 2014. If you hit that six-figure milestone, you expected to feel rich. You expected the vacations, the nice car, and the stress-free life. Instead, you find yourself checking your banking app before buying a coffee. This is the visceral reality of the disappearing middle class. We are seeing a K-shaped recovery, where the wealthy are getting exponentially richer through asset appreciation, while the working class is being squeezed into poverty. The middle, the teachers, the nurses, the tradespeople, are being hollowed out. In cities like Vancouver, a nurse can't afford to live within an hour of the hospital they work in. This creates a relatable pain that transcends politics. It's the feeling of doing everything right, going to school, getting a good job, paying your bills, and still feeling like a failure. The system has moved the goalposts while you were mid-kick. But there's a deeper reason why your savings are disappearing, and it has to do with the one thing Canadians hate talking about more than anything: the lack of competition in our own backyard. Have you noticed that your favorite box of crackers is suddenly 3 ounces lighter, but the price is the same? Welcome to shrinkflation, the invisible tax on your awareness. Companies know that if they raise the price, you'll complain. But if they just make the hole in the bottom of the jar bigger or remove a few sheets from the paper towel roll, you might not notice until you're halfway through the product. It's a deceptive practice that is rampant across Canadian grocery stores. But it's not just physical goods, it's skimpflation too, the reduction in service quality. You wait longer for help, you deal with more automated bots, and you pay convenience fees for things that used to be free. The cost of living isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. It's the erosion of value in every single interaction you have with a business. From the carbon tax added to your shipping to the service fee at a restaurant that already has high prices, you are being nickeled and dimed into submission. Every transaction is a tiny wound, and by the end of the week, you're bleeding out financially. But why is Canada uniquely bad at this compared to our neighbors to the south? Let's talk about the TFSA and RRSP mistakes that are costing you thousands. Most Canadians use their tax-free savings account as a savings account. They leave their money in cash, earning a measly 1% interest, while inflation is at 4% or 5%. In reality, you are losing money every single day that your TFSA isn't invested in productive assets. The shadow fact is that the TFSA is the most powerful wealth-building tool the Canadian government has ever provided, yet most of us use it to store a rainy day fund that is being evaporated by the rising cost of living. Then there's the RRSP trap, contributing when you're in a low tax bracket, only to be taxed heavily when you withdraw it later. We aren't taught financial literacy in school. We are taught to be good employees and pay our taxes. This lack of knowledge is a relatable life struggle because it keeps us dependent on the next paycheck. We are terrified of the stock market because it feels like gambling, yet the real gamble is keeping your money in a Canadian bank account that pays you nothing while the bank lends your money out at 7% for mortgages. The gap between what you could have and what you do have is growing, and it's fueled by a lack of financial education. In Canada, heating your home isn't a luxury, it's a survival requirement. But have you looked at your Enbridge or BC Hydro bill lately? Between the delivery charges that often cost more than the actual energy used and the ever-increasing carbon levies, the cost of staying warm in a Canadian winter is becoming a major financial burden. This is the energy bill shock. You turn down the thermostat, you wear 2 sweaters, you seal the windows with plastic, and yet the bill remains astronomical. It's a visceral pain because it hits you when you're most vulnerable. The relatable life aspect here is the dread of the January invoice. We live in one of the most resource-rich countries on Earth, yet we pay some of the highest prices for the energy we produce. It feels like a betrayal. Why are we paying world market prices for our own natural gas, while the infrastructure to move it remains stalled? The disconnect between our country's potential and our citizens' reality is a curiosity gap that leads to one place: government policy. But before we go there, we have to talk about the immigration paradox that no one is allowed to mention without being silenced. Canada is welcoming record numbers of newcomers, and while diversity is our strength, the immigration paradox is the strain on our crumbling infrastructure. We are adding 1 million people a year, but only building a fraction of the necessary housing. This isn't about the people coming in, it's about the lack of a plan to support them. The result? Sky-high rents and 12-hour wait times in emergency rooms. When you go to a walk-in clinic in Brampton or Surrey and find the doors closed at 10 a.m. because they've reached capacity, you feel the emotional pain of a system at its breaking point. We were promised that growth would pay for our services, but instead, it feels like our services are being diluted to the point of failure. The shadow fact is that Canada's GDP per capita is actually shrinking. The country is getting bigger, but the individual Canadian is getting poorer. We are sharing a smaller and smaller piece of the pie with more and more people. This is the math of the disappearing middle class. It's a supply and demand nightmare where you are the one paying the price in both time and money. But wait, there's another market that has gone absolutely insane: the used car lot. Remember when you could buy a reliable beater car for $2,000? Those days are dead. Today, a 10-year-old Honda Civic with 200,000 kilometers on it will set you back $12,000 or more. The used car market absurdity is a direct result of the supply chain collapse and the fact that Canadians are so desperate for transportation that they'll take on 84-month subprime auto loans. You're paying for a car for 7 years, a car that might not even last that long. This is a visceral pain for anyone who needs to commute to work in a country where public transit is often a joke outside of the downtown course. You are trapped. You need the car to get to the job, but the job barely pays for the car, the insurance, and the $1.60 per liter gas. The relatable life struggle is the check engine light. In 2024, that light doesn't just mean a trip to the mechanic. It means a potential financial catastrophe. We are one mechanical failure away from insolvency. Why has a basic necessity like transportation become a luxury? And why are our insurance rates among the highest in the developed world? It all points back to a system that prioritizes corporate stability over citizen affordability.
We love to brag about our free healthcare, especially compared to our neighbors to the south. But as any Canadian who has tried to find a family doctor lately knows, free doesn't mean accessible. The healthcare myth is that we have a world-class system. In reality, we have a system where the wait times for a specialist can be measured in years, not months. The emotional pain here is the fear of getting sick. What is the true cost of free healthcare if you have to take 6 months off work because you're waiting for a knee surgery you can't get? Or if you end up in the ER for 15 hours because there are no beds? Many Canadians are now turning to private options or traveling to the US or Mexico, paying out of pocket just to get their lives back. This is the ultimate shadow fact. We pay some of the highest taxes in the world for a service that is increasingly unavailable when we need it most. It's a breach of the social contract. We held up our end, we paid the taxes, but the system is failing to hold up its end. And if you think the healthcare system is expensive, wait until you see what we're doing to our students.
For decades, the advice was simple: go to university, get a degree, and you'll be set for life. But the ROI of a Canadian degree in 2024 is under serious fire. We have the most educated workforce in the world, yet we have some of the lowest productivity. Why? Because we have thousands of graduates with $40,000 in student debt working at Starbucks or in entry-level administrative roles that don't require a degree. The education and student debt trap is a visceral pain for Gen Z and millennials. They did what they were told, And now they are starting their adult lives in a deep financial hole, unable to qualify for a mortgage because their debt-to-income ratio is too high. The relatable life moment is the student loan payment disappearing from your account every month, a reminder of a promise that wasn't kept. We are overeducated and underemployed, and the cost of tuition continues to rise faster than inflation. The system is churning out degrees, but the economy isn't churning out the high-paying jobs to match them. This leads to the brain drain, but we'll get to that in a moment. First, we need to talk about the tip culture that is making every meal out an exercise in guilt.
Have you noticed that the default tip option on the Interact machine has moved from 15% to 18%, 20%, or even 25%? And now even the takeout counter is asking for a tip for a 3-second interaction. This is tip inflation, and it's adding a massive hidden cost to our social lives. It creates an awkward, visceral, emotional pain at the end of every meal. You want to support the worker, but you're also struggling to support yourself. The shadow fact here is that tipping culture is being used by corporations to subsidize low wages. Instead of the business paying a living wage, the burden is shifted directly onto you, the consumer, who is already paying inflated menu prices. It makes going out feel like an ordeal rather than a treat. You find yourself staying home more, which hurts the local economy, but what choice do you have? When a burger, fries, and a beer cost $35 after tax and tip, the relatable life choice is to just stay home and eat a bowl of cereal. But even that cereal is more expensive than it was last month. The squeeze is everywhere, and there is no escape, not even in your phone bill.
Canada has the dubious honor of having some of the highest wireless and internet costs in the entire world. Why? Because of the telecom oligopoly. Rogers, Bell, and Telus control the vast majority of the market. And while they claim they need high prices to build infrastructure in a large country, our prices are astronomical compared to other large countries like Australia or the US. The shadow fact is that these companies have some of the highest profit margins in the industry globally. For the average Canadian family, the telecom bite can be $300 to $500 a month for home internet and a few cell phone lines. That's a car payment. It's a relatable life struggle because you can't live without it. You need the internet for work, for school, and for staying connected. It is a modern utility, yet it's priced like a luxury. Every time you see that Bell or Rogers charge on your credit card, it's a reminder that you are being overcharged simply because there is no other choice. This lack of competition is a recurring theme in the Canadian story. It's a closed-shop economy that benefits the few at the expense of the many. But it's not just the big three. Your own bank is in on it too. In most parts of the world, banks pay you to keep your money with them. In Canada, you pay them. The banking fee culture is unique and frustrating. Whether it's a $16.95 monthly fee for an unlimited checking account or a $1.50 fee for an e-transfer, the big five banks are making billions off of these tiny paper cuts. It's the relatable life annoyance of seeing a monthly account fee on your statement when the bank is already using your deposits to make massive profits on loans and mortgages. The shadow fact is that Canadian banks are among the most profitable and stable in the world, but that stability is built on a foundation of high consumer fees. We are told it's the price of a safe banking system, but at what point does safe become exploitative? When you're living paycheck to paycheck, a $20 fee for an accidental overdraft isn't just a nuisance, it's a meal. It's the emotional pain of being penalized for being poor. The system is designed to reward those with high balances and punish those who are just trying to get by. And as the government introduces new carbon taxes, the cost of simply existing is going up even further. The carbon tax is perhaps the most divisive topic in Canadian finance today. The government tells us that 8 out of 10 families get more back than they pay. But for the average person, the carbon tax math feels like a shell game. You see the tax on your gas bill, you see it at the pump, and you see it hidden in the price of every grocery item that was transported by a truck. The shadow fact is the indirect cost, the way the tax ripples through the entire supply chain, raising the floor on the cost of living. Even if the rebate check covers the direct cost of the fuel, does it cover the extra $50 a month in grocery inflation caused by higher transport costs? For many, the answer is a resounding no. This creates a visceral, emotional pain, a feeling like you're being lectured on your footprint while you're just trying to drive your kids to hockey practice in -30-degree weather. It feels like a tax on being Canadian. We are a cold, vast country. We need to heat our homes and drive long distances. Taxing those basic necessities without providing viable alternatives feels less like an environmental strategy and more like a revenue grab. But the real crisis is waiting for you at the end of your career. Will you ever be able to retire? That is the question haunting millions of Canadians. The retirement crisis is no longer a distant threat. It's here. With the cost of living skyrocketing, the old math of save 10% and retire at 65 is dead. The CPP, Canada Pension Plan, is often cited as a safety net, but the shadow fact is that the maximum CPP payment is only about $1,300 a month, and most people get far less. In a world where rent alone is $2,000, how are you supposed to survive? This creates a visceral emotional pain for those in their 50s and 60s who realize they might have to work until they drop. We are seeing a rise in senior poverty, where people who worked hard their whole lives are forced to use food banks. The relatable life struggle is watching your parents or grandparents struggle to afford their medication or their property taxes. The Canadian dream was a house with a white picket fence and a golden years retirement. The Canadian reality is a basement apartment and a part-time job at 72. This is the ultimate betrayal of the middle class, and it's why so many of us are looking for a side hustle just to keep our heads above water.
One job is no longer enough. This is the era of the side hustle necessity. Whether it's driving for Uber, delivering for DoorDash, or selling crafts on Etsy, more and more Canadians are working 60 or 70 hours a week across multiple platforms just to cover the basics. The relatable life moment is the exhaustion, the feeling that your free time is just another block of time you're failing to monetize. We are becoming a nation of gig workers, without benefits, without security, and without a future. The shadow fact is that this hustle culture is actually a symptom of a failing economy. If a full-time job at a reputable company can't pay for a one-bedroom apartment and a healthy diet, the social contract is broken. This leads to a visceral emotional pain of burnout. We are tired, we are stressed, and we are losing our friendly Canadian identity because we are all just one bad day away from a financial meltdown. Why is this happening here and not in other places? It's leading to a phenomenon we haven't seen in decades, the Great Canadian Exit.
The brain drain is back, and it's worse than ever. Our brightest engineers, doctors, and tech workers are looking at the math and realizing they can earn 50% more in the US while paying 30% less for a house. The shadow fact is that Canada is subsidizing the education of our best and brightest, only for them to take those skills south of the border because they can't afford to live in the cities where the jobs are. This is a disaster for our future. When the people who are supposed to build the next great Canadian company leave because they can't buy a condo in Kitchener-Waterloo, we all lose. The relatable life struggle is the conversation at the dinner table where a child tells their parents they are moving to Texas or Florida for a better life. It's a heartbreak for families and a death knell for our economy. We are losing our human capital because we've made our financial capital too expensive to manage. Is there a way to stop the bleed? Or is the Canadian dream officially a relic of the past? The wealth gap is widening, and it's creating a two-tier Canada.
The wealth gap in Canada is no longer a gap, it's a canyon. On one side, you have those who owned property before 2015. They have seen their net worth explode by hundreds of thousands of dollars simply by sitting on their couches. On the other side, you have everyone else, the renters and the late buyers, who are effectively paying a life tax to the first group. This is the K-shaped reality. The wealthy are using their home equity to buy more investment properties, further driving up prices and locking out the next generation. The shadow fact is that Canada's economy is now more dependent on real estate than almost any other sector, including manufacturing or resources. We don't build things anymore. We just trade houses back and forth at higher and higher prices. This creates a visceral emotional pain of resentment. It's hard to be friendly when you feel like the system is rigged against you from the start. We are losing our sense of community and replacing it with a sense of competition for basic survival. But the toll isn't just financial, it's psychological. The psychological toll of the Canadian cost of living crisis is profound. We are seeing record levels of anxiety, depression, and burnout. When you can't see a path to a better life, your mental health suffers. The relatable life struggle is the 3 a.m. panic, waking up and doing the mental math of your bills over and over again. We are losing the friendly Canadian identity. People are shorter with each other, more aggressive in traffic, and less likely to volunteer or give to charity. We are in survival mode. The shadow fact is that financial stress is the leading cause of divorce and family breakdown in Canada. The cost of living isn't just making us poorer, it's making us lonelier and more divided. We are losing the things that made Canada special, the sense that we were all in this together. Now it feels like every man for himself. But there is one thing they don't want you to know. A final curiosity gap that might be the only way to survive what's coming next.
So where do we go from here? The path forward isn't about waiting for a politician to save you. The shadow fact is that no matter who is in power, the structural debt and the global economic forces will keep the pressure on. To survive, you have to stop playing the game by the old rules. You have to become financially sovereign. This means aggressive financial literacy, diversifying your income outside of the Canadian dollar, and understanding that the middle class is a choice you have to make every day through your habits. The Canadian dream isn't dead, but it has changed. It's no longer about a house and a pension. It's about agility, global thinking, and protecting your family from a system that views you as a taxable asset. The pain you feel is real, but it is also a signal to stop settling for the relatable struggle and start building a fortress around your finances. The next 10 years in Canada will be the most volatile in our history. Will you be the one who gets squeezed, or the one who saw it coming and prepared? The choice is yours, but the time to act is now. Welcome to the new Canada. It's expensive, it's difficult, but for those who know the math,